A very good morning. So yesterday we discussed about advantages, applications of tribology, advantages of tribology, okay, and tribology related introduction. All we discussed. So today we are going to discuss about important topic that is what a lubrication. Okay. So in the tribology means we already know that it's a interaction of a friction, wear, and lubrication. Combinedly, it is called as tribology. Okay. So in the tribology, the problems are friction and wear. The solution is a lubrication and bearings is the solution for these two problems. And first, we should know what is meant by friction and wear. Of course, in the second model, we will briefly, in depth, we are going to discuss about the friction and wear. But here, we brief introduction about the friction and wear we will discuss. First, what is meant by friction? So, friction, it can be defined as it's a resistance force. It is a resistance to what? To the movement between the two surfaces. ಯಾವಾಗ? When they are in contact with each other. So friction means it is a resistance. Okay? It's a resistance to the movement between the two surfaces in contact with each other. Andre, it is a resistance force. So ಯಾವಾಗ? When the two surfaces are in contact, when they not only they are in contact, but when they are in relative movement between the two surface, then only it will come into picture. Means it's a resistance movement between any two meeting surface. It is called a friction. When the friction occurs in machinery, it may be occurs in the any components, devices, whatever the two meeting surfaces. And this friction, this resistance, it is not so desirable, it is not so fair because it destroys the effectiveness of the equipment through the wear and heat, and finally it will leads to a failure or shortened life of the component. And this is what the problem. To overcome this problem, we should go with a solution called lubrication. Clear? So friction means it's a resistance to the movement between any two surface in contact with each other, and the solution for this problem is a lubrication. And the kinds of friction, in general, there are two types of friction. One is a solid friction, generally called as a sliding or rolling friction, and other one is called fluid film friction. Okay, so these things we will discuss in the second module. What is meant by friction, kinds of friction, mechanism in the friction, we discuss in second module. So first, sliding or rolling means, of course, a sliding means it's a flat contact between the two surfaces. A rolling means it's a circular contact between the two surfaces. So this leads to a friction. That friction is called as it's called as a solid friction. Means the two solid bodies are come into contact. It induces a friction, and of course, for solution for this, it's also a lubrication. And the fluid film lubrication. So fluid film lubrication means, so it is an, when compared to solid friction, a solid friction is a different, but fluid film friction means it is a lubricant having a thick film. That film will causes somewhat friction for the movement of the two surfaces. That we call it as a fluid a friction. Means whatever the fluid we are used to reduce the friction, that fluid is also induces some sort of frictions at the time of operation or at the time of operating conditions. Okay, so this is what the friction. So what is meant by friction? And there are two important types, mainly a solid and fluid. So next problem is a wear, where there is a two contact each other, there is a friction. Where there is a friction, there is a wear. Okay, so wear can be defined as undesired removal of material due to mechanical action. Means, in simple, if we define a wear, it's a periodic removal of material. It's a periodic removal of material. It is also called a wear, or it is also defined as an undesired removal of material due to mechanical action. Means mechanical action means that is what the metting surfaces, two metting surfaces, when they are relative motion, it causes friction. That friction induced heat, and that heat will start wear of the two surfaces. Okay, and it is poorly understood in the scientific sense by conventional method. Wear is divided into following types. There are so many types of wear. Mainly, we can categorize adhesive wear, abrasive wear, corrosive wear, and fatigue wear. Okay, so these are the important type. Of course, there are so many types of wears, but these are the four important type. One is means they are majorly contributing to the wear. One is abrasive type of mechanism, adhesive type of mechanism, corrosive, and fatigue. First thing, what is an adhesive wear? So adhesive wear means it's a damage resulting when the two metallic bodies rub together without the deliberate presence of an abrasive agent. Means any abrasive agent present between the two meeting surfaces, two metallic surfaces, it will cause the wear. That wear we call it as a adhesive wear. Adhesive wear means any abrasive particle. That abrasive particle may be from the foreign, from the outside the two meeting surfaces, or it may be generated by any of the one surface, or it may due to because of the lubricant. Okay, so if there is a presence of abrasive agent, that will cause the wear. That wear we call it as a adhesive wear. When the two metallic surfaces are moving with each other, and between that is there is any abrasive agent, ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ abrasive agent between those two metting surfaces ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ it causes the wear. Okay, that wear is called as adhesive wear. Okay, and the second type of wear is abrasive wear. So abrasive wear is a characterized by damage to a surface by harder material introduced between two rubbing surfaces from outside, either from the outside or maybe because of one harder surface is rubbing against to the another surface. So two in the two surfaces, one should be harder and one should be softer. Okay, so that harder surface start rubbing against the softer, and it will cause the wear in the softer material. That is called as abrasive wear. Okay, and fatigue wear. So fatigue wear, it is generally we know that it is a cyclic stress in a rolling and sliding contact in a machine components. So the type of wear is called as fatigue wear. Fatigue means it is cyclic with respect to the time. Okay, with respect to the time, the load is applied. What type of load? Stress. The stress load is applied on the rolling or sliding components. That wear is called as that cause the wear, and that type of wear is called as fatigue wear. And the last one is corrosive wear. We already know that this is just due to because of corrosion. We already know some of the metallic body, because of the moisture it start rusting. That wear commonly it is called as corrosive wear. Clear? Friction and wear, these are the two important problems in tribology, and the solution for these two problems is called a lubrication. A lubrication, it is a solution for friction as well as wear. It is not 100%. We cannot 100% eliminate the friction or wear, but somewhat we can reduce the effect of friction and effect of wear, so that we can increase the effectiveness of the component and also life of the component we can increased by using this lubrication. Okay, come to the definition. Lubrication, it is the reduction of friction to a minimum by replacing solid friction with fluid friction. Means it's a technical definition. So lubrication we can also define as it is an art of applying unguent between two meeting surfaces to reduce the friction. It is also called as a lubrication. Okay, it's an art of applying unguent means a somewhat jelly type fluid between the two meeting surfaces to reduce the friction. It is called lubrication. Okay, in technical, if you define lubrication, it is a reduction of friction. Means lubrication mainly used to reduce the friction, not 100%, to a minimum by replacing. Means if the two surfaces are come into contact, it is a solid friction. Okay, that friction we replaced by fluid friction. Fluid friction just due to because of a lubricant or a fluid which is between the two surfaces. Okay, of course it is very minimum when compared to solid friction. When compared to solid friction, fluid friction is very minimum. So that we replaced a maximum friction by a minimum friction. It is called a lubrication. This is achieved by introducing between two surfaces in relative motion an ideal film of oil or sufficient amount of grease or somewhat a fluid to keep two metal surfaces separated under speed and load imposed on bearing. Means when the two surfaces are coming to contact with under certain load or pressure, we should separate those two surfaces by introducing this fluid or a grease, whatever the lubricant between the two surfaces. The most important single factor that determines the effectiveness of oil is viscosity. That we already discussed. What is meant by viscosity? Viscosity is the one of the important parameters in lubricant. So viscosity plays a vital role. So that will decides the friction. If the less viscosity, it causes the more contact between the two solid surfaces. If the more viscosity, of course, it will separate the two solid surfaces, but obviously there is a more amount of fluid friction. Of course, fluid friction is very less when compared to the solid friction. What are the functions of lubricants? We already discussed a lubrication. Lubrication is a process. Okay, it is a one process to reduce the friction by introducing the lubricants. Okay, it is called a lubrication. But lubricants, a function of lubricant. What is meant by lubricant? Lubricant is a substance. It is a substance which is used in lubrication process to reduce the friction and wear. Lubricant means it is a substance or agent which is used in an two mating surfaces to reduce the friction and wear. Okay. So lubricants are agents which are introduced between two surfaces in relative motion to minimize friction. And of course, the selection and application of lubricants are determined by the function they are expected to perform. Some of the important function of lubricants are, means if you use lubricants, what it will affect between the two surfaces, what are its significance, why we have to use, means the main function of lubricants. That is, first, by using lubricants, directly we can control the friction, not eliminate, but we can control. We can reduce the friction or we can control the friction. Second, by using the lubricants, obviously, if the friction reduces, it also reduces the wear. It also reduces the wear. If these two reduces, obviously temperature also reduces because the temperature increased between two surfaces is just due to because of a solid friction. Okay, the solid friction generates the heat that will rise the temperature in operating zone. That may cause any other problems. Okay, but by reducing temperature, we can reduce the friction, we can reduce the wear. These are the three important. And apart from this, we can also control the corrosion. By using lubricants, we can avoid the corrosion. We can avoid the corrosion. So corrosion is also a type of wear. Okay, slowly it will cause the material surface to rust. Next, a removal of contaminants. By applying the lubricants, we can remove the contaminants which are present between the two surfaces. And these contaminants may induces adhesive wear. Okay, it may induces adhesive wear. And these lubricants, that is what the grease, which are used in the form of seal. To seal two surfaces, to seal the two surfaces, we are using grease. It is a type of lubricants. So it is also one of the function. It will seal the two surfaces. So next, come to the next some important topic in this lubrication is lubricant additives. A lubricant additives. Of course, there are lubricants are there, but lubricants having a somewhat advantages as well as limitations. To overcome those limitations, we are using additives. Additives are used just to enhance the lubricant properties or effectiveness of the lubricants. The purification and manufacturing process impact a good quality of lubricant oils, but still they are cannot be used directly. Those lubricants, some of the lubricants, of course, they are purified, of course, they are well manufactured, but even though we can not directly used, if we use them directly, they cause some other problems like corrosion or some other any other problems. It may cause some type of erosion, corrosion, or whatever it may be. So to avoid those things, they will be likely to contaminate and decomposition in exacting working conditions. Hence, the chemical compounds and other agents which termed as additives are added to those lubricants or oils. By adding these additives in our lubricants, we can reduce the contaminations, we can avoid the decompositions or reaction between the two surfaces. We can somewhat stabilize the lubricant. So, stability is most important, so that we should add these additives in our lubricants. Some of the lubricants uh, additives are used in the lubricants are antioxidant. First thing is antioxidant. So it directly increases the oil and machine life and prevent oxidation. If the oxidation will occurs means it induces the corrosion. So corrosion is a type of wear. So we have to use antioxidant additives in our lubricant so that it increases the oiliness, it increases the machine life and prevents the oxidation. Similarly, corrosion inhibitors, detergents, rust inhibitors, pore depressants, viscosity index improver, anti-foam agent, extreme pressure agent. So these are the some different types of additives which we are commonly used to improve properties like protects agent from the chemical attacks, cleanliness, eliminates the rusting, improve the low temperature fluidity, lower the rate of change of viscosity, okay, prevents the stable foam formations, improves the film strength and load carrying capacity. So these are the what the purpose of additives, and these are the some type of additives what we are using. So next come to the type of lubricants. So in the exam, they may ask, so what are the types of lubricants? We already know that there are three important types of lubricants. One is a liquid lubricant, a solid lubricant, as well as semi-solid lubricant. Semi-solid lubricant, it is also called as a grease. So first type of lubricant is a liquid lubricant. So these three types, we can select the lubricant based on the requirements, based on the operating conditions and based on the applications. We have to select either we have to select the liquid, either we have to select the solid, or either select the semi-solid lubricant. So first type is liquid type of lubricants. Liquids are generally preferred. So liquid type of lubricant means the lubricants are in the form of liquid. Okay, the lubricants which are in the form of liquid, it is called liquid lubricants. And liquid lubricants generally preferred as a lubricants because they can be drawn between moving parts by hydraulic action. Apart from keeping the parts separated, they also act as heat carrier. Means it will carry out the heat from the operating zone. In the choice of liquid lubricants for a given applications, primary consideration, moreover, effect of temperature change on the viscosity should be minimum. Liquid lubricants should in general be inserted towards metal surface and other components. Some of the examples of liquid lubricants is mineral oils. We already know that mineral oil. So oil means it is in the liquid state. So why we have to use the liquid lubricant means, of course, it will avoid the friction, as well as in the liquid lubricant when compared to the solid and grease, the flowability is more, so it will easily flow. So it will, if it is easily flow, it will also carry the contaminations. It also carry the heat which is generated in the operating zone. That's why we prefer liquid lubricants. And here some of the types of lubricants is in the liquid: mineral oils, mineral oils, mineral oil with additives. Okay, so mineral oils under example, kerosene, okay, gasoline, and some of the oils which are extracted from petroleum, paraffinic oil, naphthenic. So these are all mineral oils. Okay, crude. They are extracted from crude oil. From the refining process, we extracted, and these the oils which used to, of course, reduce the friction, used as a liquid lubricant. And same mineral oil with some additives, it will give the more effectiveness in lubrication. And what are the additives we already discussed, just to improve the qualities in the mineral oil. Next, synthetic lubricant oil. So synthetic means man-made. Okay, so neutral liquids, the oils. Okay, and these petroleum crude oil, as well as organic phosphate esters, silicon polymers. Okay, synthetic lubricants. These are synthetic lubricants. Along with that, there are so many oils. Even vegetable oils also we can use as a lubricant. Okay, animal oils, fatty oils. There are so many types liquid lubricants. Even we can use a water also used as a lubricant, but not pure water. Along with the water, we have to add some additives, because if you use directly water as a lubricant, of course it will avoid the friction, but it causes the corrosion or rust. So we have to add some of the additives. So next come to the next classification is solid lubricants. Solid lubricant. A solid lubricant is a thin film of solid interposed between two rubbing surfaces or reduce the friction and wear. It need for solid lubricants has grown rapidly with the advance in the technology, and these lubricants have following characteristics. Some of the following characteristics of solid lubricant. Solid means not a full solid like a stone. Okay, it is not like a stone or metals. It is somewhat a thick film, sorry, a thin film of solid intercourse. Okay, so first is a low shear strength, means here in solid and liquid, the fluid flow, the fluid, I mean, fluid, whatever the fluid is flowing, the flow rate is very less when compared to the liquids. Liquids, the flow rate is very high compared to the solids. Low strength, a low hardness, high adhesion to the substrate materials, continuity, a self-healing ability, a freedom from abrasive impurities, thermal stability, chemical inertness. Okay, so these are the characteristics of solid lubricants. Example for these solid lubricants: graphite, molybdenum, okay, disulfide, tungsten disulfide, boron nitride, organic compounds, aluminum, zinc, sodium, lithium. Okay, wax is the best example for a solid lubricant. Wax. Okay, so these are all best example for solid lubricants. You can observe. So tungsten, boron, these are all metal. So metal nitrides, that cause the solid lubricants. The flow rate is very less. They're just like a solid. Wax, you can imagine wax. Wax is the best example for solid lubricants. And the third category is semi-solid, means it is between the liquid and solid. It's a semi-solid. For the semi-solid, best example is grease. We all know that a grease is the best example for semi-solid lubricants. That grease is commonly used in the automobiles. A grease is generally used in the automobile components. A lubricant grease is a semi-solid lubricant and it is usually a mineral oil to which special soap is added to produce a plastic mixture. The soap is called as thickener. Certain additives are also added in a cases oil to impart a special characteristics and thus grease is oil or fluid plus thickener plus additives. A grease means oil or a fluid means it is a liquid either it is a oil or fluid plus thickener means it will improve the viscosity thickener along with that we are adding additives to improve the quality. And there are so many types of greases, that is calcium, sodium, lithium, beryllium. These are the main type of greases. A characteristics of grease, of course we will discuss the characteristics of lubricants. And here some of the important characteristics of greases are consistency, drop point, oil viscosity, chemical stability. Okay, so consistency means it is exposed to the number of 10 of millimeters. Okay, this is what the ASTM standard means. By applying the load, it is of course introduced between the two meeting surfaces. By applying the load, it won't loses its property easily. Okay, that is what the consistency. Even with the application of load or a temperature, it should maintain its consistency or its properties. That is what consistency. Drop point, it is defined as the temperature at which the grease changes the QC solid to the liquid state under the prescribed conditions. Means it will change the phase from it's a semi-solid to liquid. So that is what the drop point. And oil viscosity, of course, in the viscosity when compared to the liquid, the grease having a more viscosity compared to the liquid lubricants and less compared to the solid lubricants. Chemical stability, it should maintain its chemical, it won't react with the two any surfaces which are introduced between the two meeting surface. Structural stability, it won't change its structure, means drastically changes from liquid to solid or solid to liquid like this. Pumpability means it can pump from one point to another point in the system. Next concept, that is what lubricant applications and methods. So with this, I will finish off today's class. Okay.